Once Goku boarded the Viltrumite warship, he was immediately met with the worried faces of Gohan and the Z-Fighters. Relief washed over them upon seeing him alive, but the weight of Earth's destruction hung heavily in the air. Thrag and Anissa stepped forward. Anissa's sharp eyes fell on Gohan, noticing the Saiyan tail swaying slightly behind him. Curiosity flickered across her face, and she turned to Goku, asking if the boy was his son. Goku nodded, confirming that Gohan was indeed his. The revelation momentarily silenced Anissa, her expression hardening as she processed the information. She would have expected Kakarot to dominate the Earthlings, not integrate with them. Thrag shifted the conversation back to the matter at hand. His tone authoritative, he asked Goku what had become of Frieza. Goku revealed with a grim expression that he had killed the Emperor. He continued explaining that Earth had been destroyed in the process and that their only hope lay on Namek, where the Dragon Balls could be used to restore what had been lost. Thrag nodded, acknowledging the weight of Goku's victory. He congratulated him on defeating the universe's tyrants. Without delay, he issued an order for the ship to set course for Namek. Anissa, standing beside Thrag, decided there was no reason to keep her secret any longer. She turned to Goku, her voice calm but firm, and revealed that she was his mother. The mission struck like lightning. Thrag's stoic demeanor faltered for a moment, genuine surprise flashing across his face. Goku, equally taken aback, stared at her in disbelief. Anissa introduced herself properly. She admitted that she had never expected to become a grandmother, her words tinged with faint amusement. Gohan, however, couldn't help but blurt out a question. Why did she look so young? Anissa smirked, explaining that Viltrumites remained in their physical prime for thousands of years, their lifespans bordering on immortality. As the explanation sank in, Goku's thoughts turned inward. The implications of his Viltrumite heritage weighed heavily on him. He realized that he would outlive nearly everyone he had ever known and cared for, yet he found solace in the fact that he would still have Gohan, a piece of the family he built on Earth. Determined to keep moving forward, Goku decided to focus on training. The Viltrumite warship was equipped with state-of-the-art training facilities, and he saw an opportunity to push himself further. Alongside Vegeta and Nappa, he joined several Viltrumite warriors, engaging in grueling sessions to hone his abilities. The training was intense, with the Saiyans and Viltrumites constantly testing each other's limits, their clashes echoing through the ship. Though some of the Viltrumites saw him as an anomaly, a half-breed who had defied expectations, they couldn't deny his strength or determination. Even Thrag, who had initially regarded Goku with skepticism, began to see him as a formidable warrior. Vegeta, ever prideful, challenged Goku to a duel during their journey to Namek. He sought to test himself against Goku, confident that his own training had closed the gap between them. However, the fight was a humiliating defeat for the Saiyan Prince. Goku's strength had far outstripped Vegeta's, his mastery of techniques like Kaioken and his hybrid resilience proving overwhelming. Though bruised and battered, Vegeta silently vowed to surpass Goku, his resolve unshaken even in defeat. They arrived on Namek, greeted by the serene green landscape. The Viltrumites and Z-Fighters disembarked, their presence immediately alerting the Namekian elder Guru and the powerful warriors of the planet. Soon, Guru's strongest protector, Neo, arrived alongside the other warrior Namekians. They approached the newcomers, their expressions stern as they sized up the imposing group. The sight of the Viltrumites, with their intimidating stature and reputation, set the Namekians on edge. Thrag, with his commanding presence, wasted no time. He ordered his Viltrumite soldiers and their alien subordinates to disperse and begin their search for the Dragon Balls. The Namekians, realizing the threat, stepped forward to block the advance. Neo, the strongest among them, exuded a quiet confidence, positioning himself as the leader of the resistance. Recognizing the tension, Goku stepped forward, his voice calm yet firm. He explained the dire situation that led them to Namek. He revealed that Earth had been destroyed during a battle with Lord Frieza, and now their only hope was to use Namek's Dragon Balls to restore it. Neo's eyes studied Goku as he listened, and though the revelation of Frieza's defeat was surprising, it did little to ease his suspicions. Nail voiced his concerns openly, seeing Goku standing alongside the infamous Viltrumites only deepened his distrust. Why, he questioned, would a warrior who had bested Frieza ally himself with a group so notorious for their conquest and destruction? Goku nods, understanding Nail's apprehension. He reassured the Namekians that his alliance with the Viltrumites was born of necessity, not allegiance to their cause. He explained how their mutual goal of defeating Frieza had temporarily united them and emphasized that his ultimate aim was to restore his home and all of the innocent lives that had been taken. Though Nail remained wary, he could sense the sincerity in Goku's words. However, the presence of Thrag and the other Viltrumites was impossible to ignore. Their aura of dominance and reputation as conquerors loomed heavily over the conversation. Nail decided to stand his ground, making it clear that the Namekians would not allow their sacred Dragon Balls to fall into the wrong hands. The standoff was tense, each side bracing for conflict. Goku, caught in the middle, hoped to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. He knew that time was of the essence, and the cooperation with the Namekians was their best chance at success. Yet, an uneasy alliance between the Z-Fighters, the Viltrumites, and the Namekians was fragile, teetering on the edge of chaos. Thrag stepped forward, his imposing figure exuding authority and confidence. His voice, deep and resolute, cut through the tension as he addressed Nail and the gathered Namekians. He declared that he and the remnants of his people had rebelled against Frieza, aiding in the tyrant's defeat and dismantling his empire. The Viltrumites, he stated, had no desire to claim the Dragon Balls for themselves. Their only purpose here was to support Kakarot in his quest to restore his lost world. Despite Thrag's commanding presence and seemingly genuine words, Nail remained guarded. The Viltrumites' reputation for conquest and destruction was not easily dismissed. He narrowed his eyes, carefully considering Thrag's claims before making a decision. To verify the Grand Regent's intentions, Nail requested that Thrag accompany him to Elder Guru, the leader of the Namekians and the creator of the Dragon Balls. Thrag agreed, his demeanor calm and composed. The Grand Regent followed Nail to the Grand Elder's abode, a towering structure nestled among the rolling green hills of Namek. Inside, the ancient and wise Guru awaited, his presence radiating a tranquil power. Nail explained the situation, and Guru, with his profound insight, prepared to probe Thrag's mind. The Grand Regent stood unwavering as Guru's hand gently rested on his head, his vast psychic abilities delving into Thrag's memories. Guru's mind remained neutral as he explored Thrag's thoughts and recollections. The images he saw confirmed the Viltrumites' claims, the rebellion against Frieza, the alliance forged with Goku, and the absence of any personal ambitions tied to the Dragon Balls. Thrag's resolve was clear. His only aim was to aid in the restoration of Earth, driven by respect for Goku. As Guru withdrew his hand, his wise eyes met Nail's. The elder nodded, signaling that Thrag's intentions were genuine. Nail, though still wary of the Viltrumites as a whole, accepted Guru's judgment. Nail, following Elder Guru's instructions, agreed to assist in translating the wishes. Once the Dragon Balls were gathered and assembled, Porunga, the eternal dragon, materialized, his towering form radiating power. Nail conveyed the wishes, asking Porunga to restore planet Earth and those killed by Frieza. The dragon's eyes glowed, signaling the wishes had been made. Earth reformed, vibrant and whole, and its inhabitants returned to life, including Piccolo, whose death had been tied to Kami's demise. Thrag turned to Goku. He asked if Goku would consider joining the Viltrumites, highlighting their shared strength and Viltrumite heritage. Goku, ever steadfast in his convictions, declined politely. He expressed his gratitude for the help, but reaffirmed his desire to return to Earth and live peacefully. Anissa, standing beside Thrag, watched her son with a mix of pride and curiosity. She suggested that before he settled back into his life, she would like to meet his partner. Goku, though initially surprised, agreed to her request. The Viltrumite warship set course for Earth. Upon landing, Goku, Gohan, and Anissa took flight toward Mount Bowser. Their arrival at the familiar home was met with immense joy as Chi-Chi embraced Goku and Gohan. overjoyed to be reunited. Her happiness turned to curiosity when she noticed Anissa standing beside them. Chi-Chi's confusion turned to shock as Anissa calmly introduced herself, explaining her role in Goku's lineage. Chi-Chi, skeptical, remarked on how impossibly young Anissa looked to be his mother. With a hint of amusement, Anissa revealed her true Viltrumite age over 2,000 years. Chi-Chi's disbelief boiled into a flurry of questions, demanding an explanation from Goku. With a sheepish smile, Goku explained his origins, admitting that he was not human, but a hybrid of two alien species, Saiyan and Viltrumite. Chi-Chi, though overwhelmed, gradually began to accept the truth as she saw no deceit in Anissa's demeanor or Goku's words. The Viltrumites temporarily stationed themselves on Earth, observing its people and its culture. Tensions remained low. Meanwhile, in the far reaches of space, a storm of vengeance brewed. King Code, driven by anger over the death of his son Frieza and the stain upon his family legacy, began devising a plan. For the first time in his life, King Code abandoned his sense of superiority and pride to do something he had never done before: train. His hatred for Goku and the Viltrumites and everyone who had defied his empire festered, promising a storm of retribution that would shake the very foundation of the universe. Vegeta and Nappa remained on Earth, their ambitions fixated on unlocking the legendary Super Saiyan form. Despite their inability to achieve it thus far, their same pride drove them to reject Goku's guidance, insisting they would reach the transformation on their own. This stubborn determination consumed their training as they pushed their bodies to the brink of exhaustion, intent on surpassing their limits without outside help. Meanwhile, the Viltrumites, led by Thrag, had long departed Earth. Their mission of conquest continued across the stars. Over the course of 3 years, they expanded their reach, engaging in the battles and cementing their dominance in various corners of the universe. It was during one of these campaigns that they encountered an unexpected figure, Raditz, the estranged brother of Kakarot. Raditz was found on a remote alien world where he had been living a solitary and nomadic existence, avoiding the remnants of Frieza's forces and any who might seek out his death. Seeing the Viltrumites descend upon the planet filled him with dread, certain that they had tracked him down to kill him. When he was approached by Thrag, however, his intentions were far from hostile. Thrag delivered the news that would change Raditz's understanding of the universe forever. Frieza, the tyrannical emperor, had been defeated and killed by Kakarot. Raditz was left speechless, struggling to process the revelation that the brother who had bested him so long ago had accomplished such an impossible feat. Nolan took the opportunity to unveil another long-buried truth. He had explained that the destruction of planet Vegeta was not caused by a meteor, as Raditz and the surviving Saiyans had been led to believe, but by Frieza himself. The Emperor had eradicated their home world to eliminate the Saiyan race as a potential threat to his rule. This revelation, though shocking, was something Raditz had long suspected. Frieza's disdain for their kind had been evident even during his service under the Emperor, yet the thought that his younger brother had avenged their people and struck down the one responsible for their near extinction filled him with a conflicted sense of pride and bitterness. Thrag extended an offer to Raditz, proposing that he join the Viltrumites in their campaigns. Raditz, though hesitant, realized he no longer had a purpose, wandering aimlessly through the cosmos. Perhaps aligning himself with these powerful warriors could give him a chance to reclaim his pride and legacy. The remnants of Frieza's shattered forces eventually regrouped, limping back to the original leader, King Code. With Frieza's death, Code once again resumed control of his empire, though its former strength was severely diminished. Determined to restore his dominion and exact revenge on those who had dared defy his lineage, King Code began consolidating his resources. Meanwhile, Code scouts detected unusual power levels emanating from a desolate, barren world deep in the galaxy. Intrigued by the readings, he dispatched a contingent of his forces to investigate. Upon landing, they discovered two Saiyans, an older man and a younger, imposing figure whose sheer presence exuded raw power. They were Paragus and his son Broly. Paragus, initially cautious, was overcome with shock and relief at the sight of Code's forces. Recognizing King Code, Paragus greeted him with respect, eager to explain their situation. When Code inquired about their presence on such a forsaken planet, Paragus revealed the tragic story. He explained how years ago, his son Broly was born with a power level that far exceeded even that of Prince Vegeta. Threatened by the child's immense potential, King Vegeta ordered Broly's exile to a remote, inhospitable planet. Paragus, unwilling to abandon his son, followed him to exile, where they lived in isolation ever since. Cold listened attentively, nodding thoughtfully as Paragus recounted their plight. When Paragus finished, Cold shared devastating news in return. King Vegeta, along with the entire Saiyan race, had been wiped out by Frieza. Paragus was stunned by the revelation, but his shock turned to astonishment as Cold continued. He explained that the Viltrumites had betrayed Frieza, aligning themselves with Prince Vegeta and a group of powerful fighters from a planet called Earth. Cold expressed his desire to exact revenge on the same prince. Paragus, still harboring resentment toward King Vegeta's lineage, found himself intrigued by the opportunity. Learning that Prince Vegeta was still alive fueled his desire for retribution. Paragus agreed to aid Cold, seeing an alliance with the Cold Force as a path for both survival and vengeance. As for Broly, his immense power intrigued Cold. Recognizing the young Saiyan's potential, the Emperor took a keen interest in him. Cold treated both Paragus and Broly well, providing them with resources and facilities they had lacked during their years of exile. He even sparred with Broly on occasion, though these encounters were brief as Broly's explosive power often proved difficult to control. In time, Cold began to see Broly not merely as a pawn, but a potential key to rebuilding his empire and enacting his revenge. The young Saiyan's latent power combined with Cold's strategic mind and resources promised to be a devastating force. This was only the beginning. Back on Earth, a new threat was quickly taking shape. Deep within his hidden laboratory, Dr. Gero activated his most dangerous creations yet, Androids 17 and 18. Designed to be the ultimate weapons, these androids possess power far beyond anything the Z-Fighters had ever encountered. However, Gero's ambitions would be his undoing. Shortly after the activation, Android 18, frustrated by Gero's commands and arrogance, turned against her creator. With a code deficiency, she eliminates him. Unbeknownst to the Z-Fighters, an unstoppable storm was brewing. Androids 17 and 18 were now free to act on their own accord, unrestrained and driven by whims only they understood. The world was about to face its greatest danger yet, and Earth's defenders had no idea the impending chaos heading their way. Androids 17 and 18 emerged from the depths of Dr. Gero's lab, their cold, calculated eyes scanning the horizon. Without a word, they took flight. The world below them would soon feel their wrath. Cities were reduced to ruins in their wake. Buildings crumbled, vehicles were torn apart, and the earth trembled under the force of their arrival. They were on a mission, but the mission wasn't to conquer. They sought only chaos. High above the lookout, Kami watched with growing unease. His eyes narrowed, not just at the destruction the androids were causing, but at something far more insidious. A presence, dark and unnatural, was creeping in the shadows. Kami's mind snapped to it instantly. The presence of Cell, the bioengineered terror, born of Dr. Gero's twisted ambitions, was on the move. He had a singular goal in mind, perfection, and for that, he needed the androids. He was on a relentless pursuit. With a deep breath, Kami reached out with his mind, contacting the Z-Fighters. His voice echoed inside their heads, urgent and grave, warning them of the unnatural threat. Goku, Anissa, Piccolo, Gohan, and the rest of the Z-Fighters rushed towards Cell's location, their senses honing in the android's distinctive key signature. The energy was unlike anything they had ever felt before, an unsettling amalgamation of power from figures they knew. Goku, Piccolo, Anissa, Frieza, Thrag, among many others, were felt in this one being. It was a dangerous combination, and they knew they had to act quickly before things spiraled out of control. Cell was one step ahead, wasting no time in tracking down the androids. Their destruction across the city made it easy for him to locate them. Androids 17 and 18, oblivious to the severity of their situation, believed that they could simply crush the strange new opponent before them. Cell was just a bug to be squashed, but they quickly learned how wrong they were. In an instant, Cell blasted 17 into a nearby building with ease. The force of the blow was enough to leave 17 stunned for a moment, but it was nothing compared to what happened next. Cell turned his attention to Android 18. Cell absorbed her, his form morphing and expanding as he absorbed the energy and power she offered. The Z-Fighters felt an overwhelming spike in Cell's power, a surge so intense that it rattled them to the core. It was terrifying. This was no longer a mere threat. They were facing something far more dangerous than anyone could have anticipated. Goku and Anissa were among the first to arrive on the scene. Their senses already turned to Cell's monstrous energy. They quickly engaged in battle with the bioengineered creature, but Cell was no pushover. His strength, already formidable, had been amplified by the absorption of 18, and now he was more than a match for both of them. Goku's confidence began to falter as he found himself struggling against Cell's power, while Anissa's frustration grew as the fight wasn't progressing in their favor. Realizing they needed to step it up, Goku gritted his teeth and pushed himself further. He activated his Super Saiyan form, his golden hair flaring and his power level shooting up in an instant. But even that wasn't enough. Without hesitation, he cranked his energy even higher, stacking Kaioken times 10 on top of his Super Saiyan transformation. The raw power surging through him was immense, but it was still a fight to keep up with Cell, who had grown increasingly stronger with every move he made. The rest of the Z-Fighters soon arrived, but the situation wasn't looking any better. 17, having recovered from his blast, joined the fight in a desperate attempt to help save 18, but it quickly became apparent that they were outmatched. Cell was toying with them. His power was far superior to anything they had ever faced before. Goku and Anissa were holding their ground, but their allies were struggling to keep up. The humans, Krillin, Tien, and Yamcha rushed in to assist, but Cell dispatched them with ease, dealing with them while simultaneously engaging in the battle against Goku and Anissa. They were barely able to land a hit. Their efforts only served to get in the way, and it was clear that without a drastic shift in strategy, they would be wiped out. Piccolo and Vegeta finally entered the fray, adding their formidable skills to the battle. Goku, Anissa, Piccolo, and Vegeta worked together, each throwing everything they had at Cell in an attempt to gain the upper hand. Meanwhile, Gohan took on the responsibility of tending to the injured humans, making sure they were safe as possible while the others fought. In the midst of the chaos, Cell unleashed a devastating mouth beam, sending a blast that consumed the surrounding area. The shockwave knocked everyone off their feet, and before they could recover, Cell used a solar flare to temporarily blind them all. It was the perfect opening. With lightning-fast movements, Cell absorbed 17, his form shifting yet again, becoming more powerful than before. The Z-Fighters stood in stunned silence, struggling to process what had just happened. They were out of options, and the threat of Cell had never been more imminent. The realization hit them hard. If they didn't stop Cell now, there was no telling how much more dangerous he would become. But just as they thought the worst was upon them, Cell did something unexpected. He stopped fighting. With a cruel, calculated smirk, Cell announced the beginning of the Cell Games, declaring that they had 10 days to prepare and face him in a challenge for survival. He gave them no option but to fight, but promised that only those who could prove themselves worthy would stand a chance. And with that, Cell flew off, leaving the Z-Fighters standing in stunned silence. Their frustration and confusion were palpable, but amidst it all, a strange sense of relief settled in. They had been given time, but time alone wouldn't be enough. They needed to go stronger, and they only had 10 days to do so. As the Z-Fighters began to regroup, another unexpected event occurred. During the 10 days, in the vastness of space, a ship was on its way to Earth. Its presence did not go unnoticed by Cell, who could sense the powerful key signatures aboard. His curiosity was piqued. Cell decided to confront the ship as it landed. When the ship touched down on Earth, the Z-Fighters were unaware of the new arrivals, but Cell was already there waiting. Out the ship stepped 3 figures, King Cold, Paragus, and Broly. Cell's eyes narrowed as he scanned the newcomers, trying to decipher their identities. King Cold, with his unmistakable resemblance to Frieza, was a figure he recognized immediately, but it was the other two, Paragus and Broly, that intrigued him. They appeared to be Saiyans, but Cell had never seen them before. The young Saiyan radiated with an intensity he hadn't expected. Intrigued by the new arrivals, Cell sized them up, wondering if they would be an asset to his plans or a potential threat. One thing was certain, things had just become more interesting for him.